Yo, I'm Bob, into Marvel, happen to be totally blind since birth, talking about X-Men the Animated Series, Season 3, Episodes 3 and 4. They're actually the 29th and 30th episodes of the series as a whole, and they are the Phoenix Saga, Parts 1 and 2, Sacrifice and the Dark Shroud. So, Part 1 premiered on September 5th in 1994, and Part 2 premiered on September 6th in 1994. The Phoenix Saga lasted 5 episodes, and Fox Kids decided to air it 5 days a week. I was home on Labor Day, which was on September 5th in 1994, so I actually got to see part one. I missed parts 2 through 4, and I got to see part 5, the conclusion, before going out of town that particular weekend. So I was home in time to see the beginning and the ending of this saga. I caught the rest of the episodes, of course, during reruns. We got a promo for the Phoenix Saga, and I remember getting to see it before the episodes aired. They might have been airing it the week before, perhaps Saturday mornings. And I didn't know this as a kid, but watching the promos on YouTube, we actually got, I do believe it's Don LaFontaine voicing the promo there. He's doing the announcing, and Don LaFontaine is such a legend. You know, you would hear him in so many movie trailers doing the announcing in the 80s, 90s, um, in the 2000s as well, the late great Don LaFontaine. So I thought it was awesome that he did some announcer work for Fox Kids, X-Men and Power Rangers. I think he did some work for the primetime premiere of the Mutiny from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You can find the promos on YouTube if you type in Phoenix Saga promo. I don't know if I can uh, post those links on my page. I don't want to get in trouble with anybody, but if you type in promo, Phoenix Saga promo, you'll be able to find those on YouTube. So part one is basically the X-Men having to trust Xavier's visions. He doesn't know where they're coming from. This kind of picks up from where Out of the Past leaves off, and he is receiving these visions. Of course, they're from Lalandra. We don't find that out until the end of part two. They've got to infiltrate the space shuttle star core. They got to go to the Eagle One space station. There's a disturbance there, a vortex phenomenon, which Dr. Corbeau is studying. And Xavier is not sure where these visions are coming from. I like how Cyclops feels somewhat betrayed. He's not too keen on basically flying blind into something that the X-Men don't understand. I'm not sure what the opening of the episode shows because there is no audio description track, but it is a massive vision, of course, from Lilandra to Xavier. I imagine we get to see her Star Cruiser fleeing the Shi'ar forces from her brother Dakan as she's escaping. And I mean, yeah, you get to see the X-Men doing some sneaking around pretty much through the entirety of the first act. We get to see Jubilee being captured, and then Storm rescues her after the X-Men leave to head to space. I remember hearing Eric the Red, and as a kid, instantly recognizing the guy who did the voice of Cable. Of course, I didn't know his name back then because there was no way for me to read the credits, but I love Lawrence Bayne when he lends his voice talent to the show. So he's doing the voice of Eric the Red, I think, and he's attempting to blast Lalandra's ship into nothing. We get to actually see Daken, I think, in hologram here as he's barking orders at Eric on the space station. But of course, he fails. Not much is left to be said about part one. It is basically the X-Men fighting for their lives. I like how the first part ends with Jean, and she's attempting to shield everyone from the radiation as the space station is breaking apart. She's trying to use the solar probe, and they've done battle with Eric. Well, he's kind of all mouth. He really doesn't do much. He barks about how the powers of the X-Men are no match for the Shi'ar. Then he kind of runs to his ship. He hides behind his space station zombies, as Wolverine calls them in a later episode. And yeah, the X-Men are not in a good place as part one ends. And I like how Jean is possessed by the Phoenix Force at the end of part one. When it comes to the Phoenix Saga in the animated series compared to what we got in X-Men The Last Stand, I prefer this every single time, because the Phoenix Force is, I think, as she should be, as it should be from the comics. You know, it's an alien entity possessing Jean, the guardian of the M'Kraan crystal, and so cool to see that at the end of part one. And I had no idea what happened, because, you know, I went from part one to part five, but actually getting to see part two, The Dark Shroud, that is one of my favorite episodes. Because, I mean, you've got the X-Men heading back to Earth. Jean is hospitalized. They're not sure what had happened to her. Cyclops is furious with Xavier because he's blaming her for... blaming him for what happened to Jean. See, I'm thinking of Jean as I'm thinking of Xavier. And Cyclops, they're having a rather interesting shouting match. And Beast being Beast, he's trying to break the two up. He really... uses that easygoing nature of his, and he's like, you know, guys, it's neither of your faults. We don't understand what's going on. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go study the mind control probes. And, you know, Beast being Beast is going to have some fun with some science. I like how he's enjoying himself there. And we get to see more of Xavier being haunted by Lalandra's psychic probe here, and this is the dam bursting, as it were. Xavier has been tormented by these visions for, I think, several episodes by now. Even in Out of the Past, parts 1 and 2, when he is touching the Shi'ar prison ship, I like to think that Lalandra is the one revealing that the information to him about the spirit drinker there. Because, as Jean says in part 2, he doesn't know how he gained that information. So I like to think that was when he and Lalandra first made contact. And here, I mean, she just uses her psychic probe to the point where he cannot control his dark side. So we get the kick butt intro to Dark Xavier. The only time we get to see this dark psychic projection of course, Xavier's darker side. And he's just kind of... he's got no filter here. He is going after all of the X-Men. You've got Wolverine, who thinks he sees Yuriko, and you know, he's got to deal with Dark Xavier. I like the sinister version of the X-Men theme that's playing as Dark Xavier's doing his thing. You've got Jubilee and Gambit, and they're on their way to see a Broadway show, and he's attacking them as well. All the while, Xavier's doing his best to control the projection, but he's not able to put a damper on that. I like how it actually takes Jean, and I don't know what's going on because there is no AD track, audio description track, but I think she actually might use some of the Phoenix Force to bottle this thing up again. I love Cedric Smith's voice work in part 2, as he is being so derisive, so dismissive of the X-Men. He calls Wolverine an animal. He's calling Cyclops an ingrate before Jean manages to subdue Dark Xavier. It is one of my favorite scenes, and I kind of wish we could have explored more of Dark Xavier. Of course, that makes me want to see Onslaught show up in X-Men 97. I would love to see something like that. If we actually get that, that would be awesome. I'm not really holding my breath, but oh boy, that would be awesome. Speaking of, you know, Xavier's darker side, man, I'd love to see that in animated series format in some shape, form, or fashion. We get to see Muir Island again at the end of part 2, because that's where he heads. He feels like he is unable to control his powers due to the psychic probe there. And I like how he's putting the team first, and he decides to leave, and he leaves Cyclops in charge. That is totally Charles Xavier, exactly what Charles would do. And we get to see Moira McTaggart here and Sean Cassidy. We get our introduction to Banshee before the episode ends. I remember seeing his action figure earlier that summer and really wishing I'd picked him up. I think he had some kind of whistle plugged into his back where you blow into his back, and he could he made a whistling noise. It was supposed to be a sonic scream. But yeah, the episode ends with, of course, Lalandra showing up. And I love her introduction when I saw this thing in reruns for the first time. And they're kind of doing their mind meld thing. And I loved how Juggernaut breaks in to Xavier's quarters there at the end. And it's such a crazy cliffhanger. When I saw the cliffhanger for the first time, I had to wait a week. So actually being able to see the episode the very next day, part 3, must have been cool. I do envy those who were able to watch this thing, parts 1 through 5, just day after day, the week of September 5th through September 9th. I would give these 2 episodes a 10 out of 10. I like the little Dark Xavier side quest kind of episode. I do feel like it does show how powerful Lalandra's psychic probe is, and it's all about Xavier attempting to regain control, and it's actually Jean who helps him bottle that up. So it was a really action-packed episode. I like the illusions he was able to cast. I think Jubilee was actually an illusion as to this one part in the episode where Wolverine was, I guess, trying to save her from a train. I think he almost got hit by the train. That's what I got out of that particular fight scene anyway. But of course, she was actually with Gambit and not there at all. So yeah, good job saving your own self, Wolverine. So next time we're going to be talking about the Phoenix Saga parts 3 and 4. Such an amazing 5-parter. And cannot wait to get into those. So until then, true believers.